Hello and welcome to the Unit 3 discussion. I'm here to help you think through how you might organize your post for this week. In the instructions, you will see some examples of the context and question like you might post for your main post. You'll see in those that they give you reference to whether they are combination or permutation. However, do not place that in your initial post. Those are just for your reference as examples. You do not want to identify your problem type in your initial post. What you do want to do is compose a counting question. It can be about your classmates or anything that you find of interest. So don't necessarily limit yourself to about your classmates. You can go beyond that if you'd like. Provide a situational context for the question. So that's going to require 2 or 3 leading sentences describing the context. And then you will clearly state a counting question to be answered. And notice, without answering the question or stating the type of counting method. Why is that? Because in the first response, you will be selecting someone's question and context from the initial, and there is where you will identify the counting technique required and solve the question in a first response to a classmate. So that's why it's important not to do those things in your initial posts. You can focus on just setting up the context and stating your question in the initial post, and then in your first response, that's where everyone will have the opportunity to identify the counting technique and solve the question. Now, how can you come up with other ideas other than just these examples that are posted in the discussion instructions? Well, some ideas are to click on your digital book and go to the chapter about counting methods and look through these sections. Fundamental counting principle. That could be the type of counting technique for which you pose a question. Or maybe you want to pose one about permutations. Look through, see there are some examples about permutations, example 1, example 2 here. So you can take a look at those. Or you might want to pose a combinations problem. And so you can click on that section and see some examples of the differences between the counting techniques, as well as specific examples that are applying, say, combinations or permutations. So I encourage you to read through some of the textbook examples as you're developing your own context and ideas. Also, take a look at the live binder. There are some examples here. You can see in that snippet view of the video, there is an example. And it shows how you might solve that example. And you can see that the combination formula is being used there. So obviously, that is an example of a combination counting problem. And you can see there are a couple of videos about combination counting problems in the live binder. Also, you might flip over to your MML assignment exercises. So in these, you'll see some where the counting technique is identified. See here, fundamental counting principle. And this is an example of how a fundamental counting principle problem might be posed. And you can use that structure for your own context. You just want to make sure to make it your own, right? Use your own words and numbers and build out the context as well as the question that you want to ask. So I recommend that you flip through some of these exercises from the MML assignment. Here is another way you might pose a question. Just make it your own context, changing the words and context. And there you see another example. So a variety of ways to express various counting technique problems. Look through your MML assignment for some additional ideas. And then just coming back to the discussion, some general tips are don't make it hard. Use those examples and They can serve as a model to very clearly state the context and the question for which you expect your classmates to use a counting technique and respond to you. Again, don't make it difficult on yourself in setting it up, and your classmates in being able to apply the various counting techniques and have an active discussion throughout the week. So use this opportunity to use examples as you see them in various places throughout the unit and make an example that is all your own. And most importantly, have fun with the topic.